Aunt Harry, whispered Ron. A few seconds later, they were there, outside the third-floor corridor, and the door was already ajar. "Well, there you are," Harry said quietly. "Snape already got past Fluffy." Seeing the open door somehow seemed impressed upon all three of them. That was what was facing them. Underneath the cloak, Harry turned to the other two. "If you want to go back, I won't blame you," he said. "You can take the cloak. I won't need it now." "Don't be stupid," said Ron. "We're coming," said Hermione. Harry pushed the door open. As the door creaked, low, rumbling growls met their ears. All three of the dogs' noses sniffed madly in their directions, even though it couldn't see them. "What's that as it fits?" Hermione whispered. "Look like a herb," said Ron. "Snape must have left it there." "It must wake up the moment you stop playing," said Harry. "Well, here it goes." He put Hagrid's flute to his lips and blew. It wasn't really a tune, but from the first notes, the beast's eyes began to droop. Harry hurriedly drew breath. Slowly the dogs growled kisses, tortured on their paws, and fell to its knees. Then it slumped to the ground fast asleep. "Keep playing," Ron warned Harry as they slipped out of the cloak and crept toward the trapdoor. They could feel the dog's hot, smelly breath, and they approached the giant heads. "I think we'll be able to put the doors open," said Ron, peering over the dog's back. "Want to go first, Hermione?" "No, I don't." "All right." Ron gritted his teeth and stepped carefully over the dog's legs. He tried to pull up and swing open. "What can you see?" Hermione said anxiously. "Nothing, just black. There's no way of climbing down. We'll just have to drop." Harry, who was still playing the flute, waved at Ron to get his attention and pointed at himself. "You want to go first, are you sure?" said Ron. "I don't know how deep this thing goes. Give the flute to Hermione so she can keep him asleep." Harry handed the flute over. In the few seconds' silence, the dog growled and twitched, but the moment Hermione began to play it fell back into its deep sleep. Harry climbed over it and looked down through the trapdoor. There was no sign on the bottom. He lowered himself through the hole until he was hanging on by his fingertips. Then he looked up at Ron and said, "If anything happens to me, don't follow. Go straight to the Orrery and send Hagrid to Dumbledore." "Right," said Ron. "See you in a minute, I hope," said Harry. Let go. Cold, damp air rushed past him as he fell down, and flump. With a funny, muffled sort of thump, he had landed on something soft. He sat up and felt around, his eyes not used to the gloom. It felt though he was sitting on some sort of plants. "It's okay." He called up to the light the size of the pottage stamp, which was the open trapdoor. "It's a soft landing. You can jump." Ron followed right away. He landed, sprawled next to Harry. "What's this stuff?" said his first whether his first word. Dunno, some sort of plant thing. I suppose it's here to break the fall. Come on, Hermione. The distant music stopped. There was a loud bark from the door, but Hermione had already jumped. He landed on Harry's other side. We must be miles under the school, she said. Lucky the plant thing here really, said Ron. Lucky, shrieked Hermione. Look at you both. She leaped up and struggled toward a damp wall. She had to struggle because the moment she had landed, the plants had started to twist snake-like tendrils around her ankles. As for Harry and Ron, their legs had already been bound tightly in long creepers without their noticing. Hermione had managed to free herself before the plant got a firm grip on her. Now she watched in horror as the two boys fought to pull the plants off them. But the more they strained against it, the tighter and faster the plant wound around them. Stop moving, Hermione ordered them. I know what this is. It's a devil snare. Oh, I'm so glad we know what it's called. That's a great help, snarled Ron, leaning back, trying to stop the plant from curling around his neck. Shut up! I'm trying to remember how to kill it, said Hermione. Well, hurry up! I can't breathe, Harry gasped, wrestling with it as it curled around his chest. Devil's snare, devil's snare. What does Professor Sprout say? It's like the dark and the damp. So light a fire, Harry choked. Yeah, of course. But there's no wood, Hermione cried, wringing her hands. Have you gone mad? Womby wallowed. Are you a witch or not? Oh, right, said Hermione, and she whipped up her wand, waved it, muttered something, and sent a jet of the same blue ball, the two flames she had used on Snape at the plant. In a matter of seconds, the two boys felt it losing its grip, and it chinked away from the light and warmth. Wiggling and flailing, it unraveled itself from their bodies, and they were able to pull free. Lucky to pay attention in Herbergy, Hermione, said Harry as he joined her by the wall, wiping sweat off his face. Yeah, said Ron, and lucky Harry don't lose his head in the creases. There's no wood, honestly. This way, said Harry, pointing down a stone passage, which was the only way forward. All they could hear, apart from the footsteps, were the gentle drip of water trickling down the walls. The passageway sloped downward, and Harry had reminded Gringotts with an unpleasant word, and Harry was with an unpleasant jolt of the heart. He remembered the dragon sat to be guarding bolts in Wizard Bank. If they met a dragon, a fully grown dragon, Norbert had been bad enough. Can you hear something? Ron whispered. Harry listened. A soft ruffling and clinking seemed to be coming from the up ahead. Do you think it's a ghost? I don't know. Sounds like wings to me. There's light ahead. I can see something moving. They reached their end of the passageway and saw before them a brilliantly lit chamber, its ceiling arching high above them. It was full of small jewel-bright birds, fluttering and tumbling all around the room. On the opposite side of the chamber was a heavy wooden door. "Do you think they'll attack us if we cross the room?" said Ron. "Probably," said Harry. "They don't know very vicious. But I suppose if they all swoop down at once, well, there's no other choice. I'll run." He took a deep breath, covered his face with the arms, and sprinted across the room. He expected to feel sharp breaks and claws tearing at him any second, but nothing happened. He reached the door untouched. He pulled the handle, but it was locked. The other two followed him. They tugged and heaved at the door, but it wouldn't budge, not even when Hermione tried her Alohomora charm. "Now what?" said Ron. "These birds, they can't be here just for decorations," said Hermione. They watched the birds soaring overhead, glittering. "They're no birds," Harry said suddenly. "They're keys, winged keys. Just careful. So that just means—" He looked around the chamber while the other two squinted up the flock of keys. "Yeah, look, broomsticks. We've got to catch the key to the door. But there are hundreds of them." Ron examined the lock on the door. "We're looking for a big, old-fashioned one, probably silver, like the handle." They each seized a broomstick and kicked off into the air, soaring into the midst of the clouds of keys. They grabbed and snatched, but the bewitched key darted and dried so quickly it was almost impossible to catch one. Not for nothing, though, was Harry the youngest seeker in the century. He had a knack for spotting things other people didn't. After a few minutes, waving around through the whirl of rainbow feathers, he noticed a large silver key that had a bent wing, as if it had already been caught and stuffed roughly into the keyhole. "That's one," he called to the others. "The big one. There's there, with bright blue wings. The feathers are all crumpled on one side." One went speeding in the directions that Harry was pointing, crashed into the ceiling, and nearly fell off his broom. "We've got to close in on it," Harry called, not taking his eyes off the key with the damaged wings. "Ron, you come at it from above. Hermione, stay below and stop it from going down, and I'll try and catch it. Right now!" Ron dived, Hermione rocketed upward. The key dodged them both, and Harry striked after it and sped toward the wall. Harry leaned forward and, with a nasty crunching noise, pinned it against the stone with one hand. Ron and Hermione's cheer echoed around the chamber. They landed quickly, and Harry ran to the door, the key dangled in his hand. He rammed it into the lock and turned it worked. The moment the lock had clicked open, the key took flight again, looking very better now that it had been caught twice. "Ready?" Harry asked to the other two, his hand on the door handle. They nodded. He pulled the door open. The next chamber was so dark they couldn't see anything at all. But as they stepped into it, light suddenly flooded the room to reveal as astonishing sight.